Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and today I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Cambridge University Press. It certainly is a book I found fascinating from the point of view of jurisprudence, which I have taught, and I've always found it a great subject, the philosophy of law and the concepts. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but this one it certainly is for me. The title of the book is this one here, Flourishing Lives, Exploring Natural Law Liberalism. Been written by Gary Chartier. I hope I pronounced the name correctly, Gary. If not, I'm sorry. I would imagine it's Chartier. As I say, from CUP. I've given the title of the short review I've written the following. It's ideal for the aspiring jurisprudent, natural law theory revisited for a new audience, basically in the 21st century. Now, before we get into the book review itself, let's have a look at the book. It's a hardback. There's the front. Now, the two gentlemen on the front are John Bright and Richard Cobden, both known as radicals in the 19th century. You probably remember them from history, apart from anything else. There's the spine, and then there's a bit of blurb on the back, basically some quotes. So what I'm saying is partly looking at the quotes themselves, but the book also, because as I say, I thought this was a particularly interesting book. Runs to 300 pages. The details about the author is on the back. He's actually Distinguished Professor of Law and Business Ethics and Associate Dean of the Tom and Vi Zapara School of Business at La Sierra University in Riverside, California. So it's an American author, if I can put it that way, in the sense of coming from the States. But having said that, it's dealing with very basic jurisprudence. There's the index at the back, which is by page numbering. And we go, and obviously the usual suspects are all there. All the names are there, so don't worry about that. You'll find anyone you're looking for, you will find. Then when you look at the book itself, you see that the basic copy, the actual copy of the book, there's no paragraph numbering. There are some footnotes and so forth. And then at the front, you've got some blurb about the book, which I've referred to. Then you've got, again, the main front page there. Then you've got the stuff from CUP and a very nice little dedication. Now, it's our policy not to review books we don't like, mainly because the people who put the work into these books, my view is if it's not a very good book, I'm not going to make a comment on it. I only make comments which I think are important. This book, I think, is important for students and for those with a wider interest in the philosophy of law and of the basis of jurisprudence itself, and of course in this case natural law. Now we've got nine total chapters, so you've got an introduction on liberals and a conclusion on radicals, which I find interesting because the word liberal has a different meaning really in America than it does here. Radical is probably a better way of doing it, but I'll leave you to decide what you want to call them. There's the acknowledgements section there. It talks a little bit about La Sierra University too, which I didn't know a great deal about, so thank you for that information. Then introduction on liberals. Here we go. Natural law and liberalism. In this book I explore, illustrate and seek to illuminate a radical version of liberalism, articulated and defended using natural law theory. And again, there are a lot of people who are mentioned, whom you, if you've been a conscientious reader of legal literature, will know their names. You see the footnote even at the beginning mentions Mark C. Murphy, for instance. Then you've got a lot of other people mentioned in the footnoting as we run all the way through. Then we start looking at the history, flourishing lives of people, then various other information all the way through the various books, adversaries coming up, and then right at the end we have this, anarchists. We mustn't miss the anarchists. And right at the end we have the conclusion on radicals, which he says, a version of radical liberalism articulated and defended using natural law theory can foster flourishing and fulfilment. Now, you can take some of this in my submission with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but I do think it's not a difficult book to read, and I do think it may be a bit opinionated in some instances, but I think it's a very interesting book. And I've always taken the line with jurisprudence, bearing in mind that I've taught so many students who hate the subject that I have to try and make it as interesting as possible. And in fact, I found this one to be particularly so. Now, what do I say for a short review? This. In essence, what the book says and what the publisher says, the book elaborates, illuminates and illustrates a confident and attractive account of social and political liberalism, considering a rich understanding of flourishing and fulfilment rooted in a version of natural law theory. Now, that is cobbling together what he says at the beginning and at the end, if you like, of the work, but that's what you're getting. And it examines issues in ethics, law and politics, including consumer responsibility, the assignment of grades by teachers, always a big problem, deception by lawyers, war and empire, and the use of victim impact statements in parole decisions, all of which highly complicated, highly emotive, because people sometimes get really upset about it all. The author then, Gary Chartier, shows us in this text how natural law theory can effectively support the following: pluralism, diversity, social equality, integrity, peace and freedom. All of those issues are enwrapped or wrapped up, if you like, today in the rule of law itself. And I think, again, he's using the basic principles of natural law, which is based, as you know, in a different way from other schools, as I call them, of jurisprudence. But he's trying to look very much at how those theories, from developing from the 19th century, have come to some sort of fruition for us today in the 2020s. And what he does in the book is he covers three areas which I think any student of jurisprudence will find helpful. If you're going for first, this is the sort of book you should be thinking possibly of quoting from, because we're looking at the following: highlights of natural law theories, contemporary relevance today. Can I just say, I don't think there's been that much written on the subject in recent times, so I think that's helpful. Secondly, he articulates an understanding of natural law theory which is supportive of what is called pluralism and diversity. And again, that is playing a very substantial part, again in my submission, within professional practice today. And I think that's very important. It's certainly the case in the United Kingdom. And finally, he illustrates natural law theory by applying it in discussions of contemporary philosophical issues and social and political concerns. It is, of course, from California. I don't mean that in any insulting way whatsoever, but I'm saying it because it's coming from a different jurisdiction, and it's got a slightly different approach, which I think is very refreshing. Doesn't necessarily mean I agree with everything that's in it, but at the same time I think it's a refreshing approach, and I liked what I heard and read. The hardback edition of the book was first published on the 19th of June 2019. It's available as an ebook, and I'm recording this short review in the summer of 2019. Let's go back to John Bright and Richard Cobden. Brave gentlemen in their time, bearing in mind what they were up against. I'm not a liberal in the sense of the American political sense at all, and I'm not a liberal in terms of British politics either. I'm a conservative, but I do find the subject matter very, very interesting. Looking here, for instance, there's a great subject title. The titles actually are quite short. This one is Lies, Liberalism, Natural Law and Truth. So it's looking at lying and telling the truth, which is a very interesting subject area for me in the courtroom, because so many people tell lie after lie after lie. Sometimes they think it's the truth when it's certainly not. A very interesting point, because it brings in the natural law concept. I'm not going to say any more because you should read the book. What I would advise, the footnotes are very detailed. Don't spend too much time on the footnotes. Read the body copy itself, because you'll get a much better picture. This is on grades, another very emotive area in the news again at the moment as I record this. Interventions and, as I say, anarchists right at the end must have a little place for them. Thank you very much to CUP and to Gary Chartier. I found it a fascinating book, and I think anyone involved in jurisprudence should read the book. Thank you to all. Bye-bye.